Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way.
Go ahead and get to it, man. Peace, everybody. What's going on? It's the Poet Life Podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have a phenomenal guest with us today. I'm your co-host, J-Rod-D, along with my good brother, Christoph Jenkins, a.k.a.
Yes, sir.
Christoph Wright. We're bringing you another episode of Poet Life Podcast with the talented, multi-talented, so to say, Brothers Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Yes, sir.
Mr. of his HBCU, Mr. HBCU of his HBCU. Also participated in the Mr. HBCU contest with a phenomenal poem about education, which is highly relevant today with social distancing in education right now. We have with us right now, we have the good brother, Anthony Highland, reporting live from Honolulu, Hawaii. How's it going, good brother?
Appreciate it. It's going well.
Yes,
I'm excited to be here, man. And, let's get to it.
Yes, sir. Man, quick question for you, man. I know that you're a bruh, and, shout out to the good bruh. Can you tell us a little bit of your experience at Voorhees and you being on the poetry scene?
So for me, going down to Voorhees was an eye-opener in itself. I'm from North Philly. So, being in the country was enough in itself, a new experience, all the gnats and, all of the wild animals just roaming around freely, you know what I'm saying? So, the poetry scene was really unique because nobody was doing what I was doing. There were two brothers that I connected with down there. One of them is actually a bruh now, and it's Ben Bakayoko. And he came in after I did. And we formed this group called the Intellectual Brothers. And both of them, they did poetry and they rap. So what happened is we would take over on campus and we started doing like talent shows. And, we would do like series. So we did a series called Metaphors for Life. And it became really popular on campus. We won first place in the talent show. And we figured, you know what, we can take this on the road. So we went on up the road to South Carolina State. We were entered into a talent show there. We won that. Then we went across the street from South Carolina State to Claflin University. We did a talent show over there. We won first place in that. So at this point, we go back to the table like, yo, we really got something here. So what would happen is, and most oftentimes what happens with groups, people would try to book individuals. Whereas myself, I would do poetry and public speaking. They would try to get me in for a speech, but then also book me for a performance. And the way I roll is, if my homies can't roll, I'm not trying to roll because we're a group. You know what I mean? I'm not with the solo missions now. If they're just specifically trying to pay me just for the sake of getting me, then I'm going to discuss it with the team. Hey, listen, brothers, this is what they're trying to do. Whoop-de-whoop. But I would always, package it in a sense of you get me, you get them. And then, of course, they will want to, hear what we had to talk about. So from there, we went to other places like Charleston Southern, the College of Charleston. We had an opportunity to go up to Clemson, but that kind of fell through due to some logistics. But the idea was there wasn't anybody doing what we were doing. And for me, poetry has always been my base, my love, my passion. And for that to take us across different platforms in terms of the collegiate experience, we figured if we can do it here, we can take it out of state too. So then we start traveling down to Florida, Mississippi. We went to Alabama for a convention. We did some stuff there. And because of social media, we were able to connect with locals there to be able to jump onto their platforms there. Fast forward up until now, Ben is more into business, the business side of things. Oh, I'm sorry. The other young man, his name is Daryl Spratley. We're not too cool these days. He kind of, went his way, I went my way. But, of course, with me, my base being poetry, everything that I attach myself to has been surrounded by that. So all my social media platforms and more recently, the TikTok platform.
Got it. Anthony, tell me, when did you start writing poetry? Like, when did it become a passion of yours?
I started writing in middle school. And I like to tell people that poetry saved my life because there were a lot of things that I was dealing with at home. And my teachers, shout out to two of my favorite teachers, James Caldwell and Joshua Trott. And what's important about those two is James Caldwell is Black and Joshua Trott is white. However, Joshua Trott, he was one of those white teachers that worked in the hood, in the public school, but he understood the plight of the young black males. So, he would say things to me like, I see all this anger and frustration you have pent up. I think you can turn that pain into a passion. Well, why don't you start writing? And I'm like, poetry? That's for suckers. Nobody write no poetry, because I'm thinking when I walk down the street and
Right.
I see the car,
The
I hop in the car.
stereotypical.
You know what I mean? Like the Love Jones type of poets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was just like, nah. And he introduced me to this organization called Philadelphia Youth Poetry Movement. And, I just started working through that platform and where I was introduced to slam poetry. And I'm like, I can get on stage, I can yell, I can utilize my intelligence and my vocabulary, and I can cuss from time to time. Oh, we in there. Oh, we in there. So from there, it was a passion in middle school, but it became a way of life in high school. So whereas, when my homies were going to the club, I was going to the poetry workshops. When I wasn't in church, we were, booking meetups to go down to the park and just freestyle in the park. My brothers, we would also go down on South Street. If you know anything about Philadelphia, South Street is very iconic. And we would literally post up on the corner. You know how guys post up with their instruments and play music and stuff like that? Nah, we just spitting. We got our bucket out and we just spitting. And people would, gather around, listen to us spit, drop us some bread. And, from there, I started to realize that, God really blessed me with a gift, and I have a responsibility to use that gift to not only help others, but to liberate others in the process.
That's
Let me
good.
ask you this, man, because as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking about consistency comes to mind, and then also how you coupled your passion with that consistency. Now, for poets starting off right now, we hit the ground level, and a lot of people don't know which direction to go. What advice can you give a poet as far as being consistent with their passion, and how just from your story alone, it showed that it pays off for you? But what kind of jewels can you give to a young poet who may be in the same position, who wants to write, has a passion, but right now they're trying to find a direction to be consistent
The first thing I would say is find your voice. A lot of times what happens is, I know for me, hopping into the slam scene, what made me stand out is that I didn't sound like everybody else. And sometimes what'll happen is we'll get so caught up trying to do what's popular that we forget to be authentic to our true self. So what I do is, very seldom will I write about an experience that I didn't have, but I had connection to. So as close as I am to the topic, that's what I write about. That way I can infuse that raw emotion and that, heartfelt emotion into it. And sometimes we sacrifice what's right for what's popular. And I feel like sometimes we try to think of, what will go viral best, or, what will sound best if I weave it together in a poem, what will invoke the most emotion. And really and truly, it's being your authentic self. And some of those experiences, I try to give what I call a roller coaster of emotion. So when you think about a story, right, I'm a writer, you have your beginning, you have your climax, and you have your ending. A lot of times what happens is when you fabricate that story, that climax is never going to hit the same because you don't have the same connection to it. So the first thing I would say is be authentic to you and find your voice. And in doing so, there's a lot of practice that's going to take place. There's a lot of competitions that are going to take place. And really and truly, sometimes it's literally the as simple as you standing in front of a mirror and just reciting your poetry. And understanding that for some platforms, you don't even need to physically be a face. You can do voiceovers. So in finding your voice, that's one of the main things. My second piece is stop listening to everybody. Very seldom when I'm writing do I actually listen to other poets. Now, if I just want to, as a listener, you gotta separate being a listener and being a performer. When I'm in performance mode, I listen to myself and myself only, because I don't want my message to become muddied by other people's style. Now, when I just want to be a listener, right, and gain some insight or some ways to diversify, my style or my content, then I'll listen solely as a listener. And with that, you have to be active in that, because when you become so consumed by other people's content, you start to sound like them.
Right. That's
So
good.
though,
So, um, so what I'm getting at also is it's important to make it a lifestyle. in addition to those things that you want to have, your voice, and also knowing that it's going to be the work you have to put into it.
Absolutely.
So you have to keep those in mind. Um, I guess Q has found more because your story's interesting, man, because you actually took it and lived with it, and now you're here. And we're talking about going viral on TikTok, and that's something that a lot of times, as poets, I know poets in particular, we try to go so hard so we can get enough people to listen to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you get caught in those pitfalls, like you just say, listen to everybody else. You're worrying about what's going to appease the crowd, like all these different things. When you're on the stage, you might not approach it the same way. So,
Right.
what helps you to distinguish between, if there's any difference at all for you between social media and the actual stage?
Oh man, that's whew. So let's see the difference. Well, let me say this too. One last piece of advice for beginning
Yeah.
poets: set your price.
Okay.
A lot of times we get caught up with this idea that, you know, people are paying us for our time, when really and truly they're paying us for our passion and for the amount of years that it took for us to bring our material together. For someone to pay me $250 for a 3-minute poem, you're not paying me for the time of the poem. You're paying me for the years that I've beat at my craft and performed and competed on some of the highest levels in order to get to that point. So set your price. Distinguishing between social media and the stage, I would say that they're never going to be the same. Because for me, something that I do is I draw my energy from the crowd. So I memorize, I would say, I used to say 95%, but I'm going to keep it 100. It's really 90% of my poems I memorize. 10% I keep in my phone, and 10% I'll freestyle. So there's times where I'll get so passionate about a piece that I may have practiced it, I don't know, 100 times before the competition, but the energy in the room is so dynamic that I just forget a whole stanza. But I've been doing this for so long that I've learned how to freestyle in the moment to be able to weave relevant content together that it almost looks effortless. And then my wife, who knows almost all of my poems, she'll be like, nice save, nice save, you know what I mean? But the other 10%, you know, I'm sorry, other 5%. I said 90, 10, and 10. Okay. I'm dripping right now.
I was gonna let you
95 and
win.
5.
We're gonna let you rock, man.
Yeah. You know, sometimes, you know, my mental, you know, because I like to give over 100%.
There you
You know what I'm
go.
saying?
That's
So,
you
so
just
that's,
did it. You just did it. You just saved yourself.
you know what I'm saying? So,
Nice save
with
right
that,
there, man.
and I did that on purpose, because I want those that are listening to be like, wait, huh? Wait, what'd he say?
Right.
Because that's how you change people's mental. You got to give a perspective that's outside of the realm of what you're used to hearing. And when you hear the same thing over and over again, you do what's called oversaturating the market. So separating social media and the stage, with social media, to me, it's all about passion and translating that passion into a digestible piece so that people get the point of what you're saying. You have to say a whole lot in a lot less time, because now you got to think about metrics. The average person, within the first 5 to 7 seconds of a video, they're gone. If you don't grab their attention within those first 5 to 7 seconds, they're gone.
Right.
They're gonna go ahead and swipe, and they're gonna go on to the next piece of material, which is why I love the TikTok platform so much, because you got to understand your metrics. So for me, on that platform, anywhere between 15 and 45 seconds, that's my sweet spot to go viral, and I know it. It's tried and true. Whereas on stage, if we're physically in a venue, you have no choice but to sit there and listen to me. And now you can tune me out if you want to, you know what I mean, in a 3-minute poem. Whereas on stage, where are you going to go? Unless you're going to get up and physically leave, you have to listen to the entire piece. So I try to gauge, especially when it comes to competitions, the energy in the room. Let's say, for example, Draddy, let's say you do a poem on, you know, overcoming a mental health issue that you were dealing with, right? And then, you know, Chris, you come right behind that with overcoming some of the same things, but a different aspect of mental health, right? But then I get up and I'm ready. Now my poem is about my daughter. Here's the deal with the stage. On stage, it's a lot harder to shift the energy in the room if you're not going to be committed to it. Because now you have to think about your listeners. They're conditioned at this point to feel a specific type of way emotionally. So you've taken them to this height, to this height, to this height, and now I'm gonna bring them back down with a soft love poem. It's almost like if you're gonna disrupt the energy in the room, you have to be purposeful about it, and you gotta be dope. That's another thing. Sometimes as poets, we don't like to hear that. Hey, listen, bro. Hey, listen, sis. You got to go back to the drawing board because that just ain't it. And it's hard to do that as a poet or to come to that realization because we like to all believe that we're the dopest. You know, that, you know, we all have bars or that we can all move a crowd, and really and truly, that's not true. You know,
I know some poets. I'm sorry. I'm cutting
you
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 off.
good?
No, but I know some poets who they're not. So it's like two groups of poets I know. Some who are pro slam and some who are against slam. The group who are anti slam, quote unquote. It's kind of like it's two different sides of that too. Some people are saying I don't like slam because I feel like I'm being critiqued and judged for my art, my poetry, and it's my art. And some are saying I don't like it because I don't want to feel like I got to compete with people. Now with that being said, you're saying that as poets, you need somebody to say, yo, you know what, man, change that bar a little bit, fix that right there. Oh, you do this, add this kind of energy, bring this kind of evoke this kind of emotion. So I don't understand so much slam because I haven't been a slam poet, but I do understand that is a good place to get the critique. That's probably the best way to
Absolutely.
do it. Like all the slam poets that I know who are successful at slam, like it's almost as if like it's almost like it's flawless in a way. You know, it's almost like because like they've been judged and
Right.
critiqued so much, they know how to do their thing. Which
I'm
leads to my
glad.
next question.
I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like with slam, especially with that specific argument, I understand it. However, I don't always agree with it, and I'm going to tell you why. Sometimes that argument in itself tells me where that poet wants to go with their platform. If you're the type of you're the type of poet that just wants to get on stage, say your poetry, have your poetry felt, and that be that, then I'll tell them don't slam.
And that's
Because right, and that's cool. You don't have to slam it all. But what happens is when you step outside of the realm of I just want to be a person to get on stage, say my poetry, and have it felt to I want to get paid for this. You need to know that you're putting out the best possible product that separates yourself from miles apart from individuals. Now, here's the deal with this too. I've won slams and I've lost slams. And I feel like as a competitor, you want to know what are the types of things that you can do differently. Do I feel like everybody that I've lost a slam against is better than me? No, they just got the best of me in that moment. And the beautiful thing about slam is that it's so unpredictable. I've seen poems that in some venues, they probably would get booed. But in other venues in other cities or other states, it's a top level 30. You get what I'm saying? So it's all about going to different places. The fact that I've been to Philly, I've been to New York, I've been to Jersey, I've been to Delaware, I've been to Maryland, I've been to Virginia, I've been to Florida, I've been to Alabama, I've been to Texas, and now I'm in Hawaii. Slam looks different in every single one of those states.
Right.
Because the atmosphere and the intellect of that crowd is going to be different, which is, I kind of relate it to battle rap. When they go to different states, right, they use certain bars that are relevant to that crowd. Why? Because they're going to hit better. They're going to hit harder. But here's my take on slam. When you have your truth and you speak your truth, I can confidently say you can't get on stage and do what I do because you're not me. You can't charge the prices that I charge because you don't bring to the platform what I bring to the platform. So what separates those that they bring up the argument, oh, I don't want to, and I'm gonna be honest, when I first started slamming, I kind of felt that way too. Like, well, how you gonna say my poem isn't as good as theirs? Does that invalidate my experience? No, that doesn't invalidate my experience. But for this platform in itself, the idea of slam, once you respect the origins of slam, then it's more so like you know what? It's not personal. This is a competition.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost essentially the same as a talent show. When I did my talent shows in college, how in the world do you judge my poem about overcoming a suicidal attempt to someone's dance routine or praise dance to a gospel song.
Mhm.
It's all about emotion. It's all about stage presence. All of those different types of things that make you a better performer, which to me separates those that get paid for it and those that just do it for the sake of doing it. And it's nothing wrong with either one, but you have to think about and make up in your mind, how far do I want to go with this? Chris, we talked about this the other day. I want to live off of this.
Thank you.
This is something that I want to do, that I can travel to different places in the world and do. So what do I need to do in order to understand that? I got to compete against people outside of the places where people love me all the time.
So with that being said, what made you believe that you can live off this, knowing that so many people, so many poets believe that there's no money in poetry? What made you believe that there is enough for you?
Commitment. I mean, really and truly,
Yeah.
that's all it was commitment, getting on different platforms. And then here's another deal to that too, diversifying your background. So not only am I a poet, but I'm also a professional public speaker as well. So I'm a double threat when it comes to booking me, because a lot of times what happens is you have individuals who they're so one-track minded that all they have is their poetry. And don't get me wrong, if you're a dope poet, you're a dope poet. But in this day and age, you need more than that. So for example, you know, my t-shirt brand, greatness is not an option, greatness is an expectation. I live by that. You get what I'm saying? I wrote a book, you know, the purpose of power, you know, available on Amazon. Quick plug, appreciate that.
There you go.
But you have to diversify yourself, because here's the deal. Everybody's not going to have a budget to pay a poet.
Right.
And sometimes you do things for the sake of the look. Sometimes you do things for the sake of building your platform. I'm not above doing stuff for free. But because I've been performing for 15 plus years, I understand that some places are not going to be able to pay you. Now, some places you also got to understand, it's not that they can't pay you, it's that they don't want to pay you. So then what do? You ask yourself, is this something I want to subject myself to? So on the front end, you might not be able to pay me, but I got t-shirts and I got books that, hey, listen, y'all, I know y'all can't pay me, but is it cool if I bring a couple of my t-shirts and a box of my books?
Right.
I've had places say, oh yeah, absolutely, bring it. And what they would have paid me in terms of money. So I'll give you guys some of my baseline prices. So for my poems, anywhere between 2 to 3 poems is just $250 right off top. That's my baseline, $250 right off top. Now, if they want me to do a whole set, then I'll lead with what's your budget rather for speakers. Because here's the deal. Sometimes what'll happen is we undervalue ourselves as performers because we don't know what we want to charge. When really and truly, for example, my baseline, $250, right? However, for my professional public speaking, my baseline for a 30-minute talk baseline is $500.
Right.
Anything over an hour is $1,500, not including travel or lodging. That's right there. Those are baseline prices.
Right.
For an individual to reach out to me, to email me or to inbox me and say, hey, we want you on our platform, that tells me 2 things. 1, somebody has either recommended me to you, or 2, you've saw my content somewhere and you feel that my contribution to your program is going to boost it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So I'll ask right off top, what's your budget for speakers? Oh, well, we only have, $250. Okay, cool. All right, I'm good with that. For real? Yeah. Now, let me show you the power in being committed and believing in yourself. I've had, and I want to be sure when I quote this, in my 15 plus years of performing, in my 6 plus years of speaking, I've only ever had 2 places. Now, I've spoke at over 20 plus colleges and universities. I've performed in all of those different states I named previously. I've only had 2 places ever pay me what I asked for. Yeah. Because I got on stage, I did my thing, I was diverse, I presented in a way that was unique. They paid me more.
Nice.
There were places, especially brotherhoods and networks, and that's something that I want to get into too, networks that were just like, yo, there's no way we can just pay you that. So they'll pay me my baseline, and then they'll say, you know what, guys, I want you all to invest in this young man's future, or I want you to invest in this young man's brand. Or I've had individuals come up to me and say, you know what? I don't care what your book is about. Let me get 10 copies for the sake of me investing in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't even fit your shirt, but I want to buy your shirt to give to someone else to, you know, be able to pass on that blessing and that message because I believe in you. And it starts with that consistency and understanding, where do you want to go with this?
This is good.
But let me ask this too, because I go for you.
Well, what I wanted to do, because I want to jump real quick,
Okay.
because we're definitely going to bring Anthony on, bring him back for so much more, because we have so much to talk about. I wanted to get to where our direction is as it relates to what drew you to TikTok, and how has that created more opportunities for you?
Oh man.
Yeah.
So my wife actually put me on to TikTok maybe about 2 years ago. And, you know, in the beginning, I'm just like, that's just one of those platforms where the
Right.
teenagers be doing the little dance challenges.
Yeah.
And, you know, I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? I'm a grown man. I'm good.
Hey,
You know what I'm
I'm a
saying?
grown man.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I can stroll, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I can't dance too well. So
Yeah.
I stay in my dancing lane. You know what I
Got it.
mean?
Yeah.
So then about roughly probably about 18 months ago, she put me on to this gentleman by the name of Conscious Lee.
Okay.
And he was posting on his TikTok a lot of like conscious stuff, a lot of stuff to confront like, you know, racism, bigotry, all those types of things. And, you know, I've always been about social justice, and, you know, confronting the injustices that happen in the world. And I infuse a lot of that into my poetry as well. So I'm like, yo, if he can do this and build a following. So then I looked at his page and I started, you know, consuming some of his content. And then I scrolled to the top of his page and I said, this man got 300,000 followers.
At least everybody say, all
I
right,
said 300,000 followers,
So
and
what
all
he
he doing is posting about conscious stuff
Yeah.
in a way that, you know, is digestible and unique to him. I was like, yo, I don't even need to do no original content because I have plenty of poems that I can
Got
post,
it.
you know,
Got it.
that I've done in professional settings, that I've done on stage, that I've done in the confines of my car, that I've done in my house. I can just start off with that, and just wherever that goes, it just goes.
So basically what it sounds like to me is you saw that TikTok was the dancey trendy platform, but then said, "Oh, let me jump in there and do something different and stand out."
Yes, sir. And here's the deal. I don't see any other poets
Right.
on there.
Right.
you were the first person I heard of that a poet on TikTok. I'm
So
like,
now
TikTok poetry? How?
we have a platform to whereas if you type in TikTok poet
You come
on,
up.
Yeah,
There you go.
you monopolize that market and you disrupt
Disrupt.
the energy of that atmosphere. So now not only are you doing something unique,
Yeah.
nobody else is doing what you're doing.
There you
So
go.
I said, you know what?
Can I
All
ask a
right,
quick
let's
question, man?
go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question because I know your most recent poem. I want to ask you how that went too, because I know that you say you jumped from 77 to like 86. Um, that last poem you did, and it was a quote from MLK,
Mm-hmm.
and I just found out that they had banned certain words from TikTok for this whole time with George Floyd. You can't say George Floyd. You can't say Black Lives Matter. And I don't know if you're aware of that when you did that, but how do you navigate those kind of things when they start doing stuff like that? You know what I mean? Especially now when it's social. Like
Really,
how.
really and truly, and this kind of goes into how I built my platform. It was I navigated by building a community. So what I mean by that is when I do my social media consulting, Chris, you kind of asked, you know, how do I utilize, you know, TikTok to, you know, open up other opportunities? I started social media consulting maybe about a year ago because I was going viral on so many different platforms. And I always tell people that value is not in origination. Value is in duplication. So if I can go viral multiple times on Facebook, if I can go viral multiple times on Instagram, the TikTok platform is almost going to be a walk in the park. So I said, okay, boom. So I jump on this platform. I posted 2 poems in the beginning. I posted some stuff about my family, but one poem just took off. And when I say took off, I gained 40,000 followers in a month.
Now, what was that poem about?
So that poem was pretty
Yeah,
much
I got context too.
disrupting the mindset of unconditional love as a parent. So I talked
Okay.
about the LGBTQ community. I have a younger brother who is a part of that community, and I myself am a proud ally of the LGBTQ community. And there's some things that come along with that, but I'm okay with that because again, when you live your truth, you accept everything that comes along with that. So in that, what I came to find is that poem went so viral because it's such a relatable piece
Yeah.
of the stories that you'll see of individuals who are a part of the LGBTQ community who don't receive that unconditional love from their parents, have been kicked out of their homes. And this isn't just something that you look at the demographics of TikTok, right? 13 to 19-year-olds. Well, the main demographic is 12 to 25 years old. However, I have individuals that follow me that are 50 plus, that are 60 plus, that are 70 plus. And, sometimes they'll give me information and or reach out to me in terms of different statistics of, who's on the platform and, how best to navigate the platform. And what I saw was it's all about sound bites. So multiple poems that I posted on there. Now, mind you, that poem right now is sitting at 700,000 views. And that's the best video that I have on there thus far. I have 4 videos that are of poems that are over 150,000 views. And literally it's the invoking of raw emotion. But you also got to think about networks too when you're confronting these types of things. So, for example, I have a poem that I wrote about mental slavery. It's a 2-minute and 15-second poem. I posted 3 different videos of that exact same poem in 3 different settings. One video, I believe, is sitting at like 6,800 views. One video is sitting at like 8,900, and another video is sitting at 30,000. Because that sound bite is what people related to, and you also got to think about timing too.
Right.
With the content that you post and the way in which you go about navigating that. So what I mean by community, right? By how I navigate those things. There are individuals who will put me on game because of the community that I've built of, hey, listen, they're shadow banning people because of this type of verbiage or reading through the community guidelines. A lot of people don't do that. You got to read through those community guidelines. So when people say, oh, my video was taken down, it's because you didn't read through those community guidelines. And you got to figure out, okay, what are the types of things that they're limiting you from saying? And then how do you navigate around that to be able to still get your message out, still be authentic, and still garner the response that you would like to get from it. And I think overall, and I'll end on this with that question is, don't worry about views. Don't worry about followers. Don't worry about likes. Worry about putting authentic content out. And I promise you, people will relate to your content.
So in a way, it's almost as if, so the question I asked before about the difference between it, come back to it now, it's like 2 sides of the same coin. It's like it's the same thing, but it's just how you approach it. So like the what remains the same is the raw emotion, the authenticity, the passion.
Absolutely.
Not swaying away from that at all. But the platform is different. You gotta know how to approach it with the platform.
Politics.
In what way? Yeah, politics for sure. In what ways does TikTok, like going viral on TikTok, the many times that you have you seen a check? Like, has it been paying you? They throwing a bag your way? Like, how does that turn into profit?
So the way I see it, and I've kind of analyzed a lot of different people's platforms, and it seems as though now what's interesting about TikTok is that when you reach a certain level, now right now I'm sitting at, and I want to make sure I get my numbers right.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at 86.7 thousand followers, 1.2 million likes, 2 million cumulative views across all my videos, and I have 4 videos over 150,000 views. Now, what I've come to see is that most people don't start getting sponsorships, so to speak, from TikTok until they eclipse that 100,000 follower mark, because they want to know that you have massive influence. Then once you hit that 500,000 mark and then that 1 million mark, that's when, big companies start to actually look at, okay, what is the content that this person is posting? What are the types of things that this individual is doing? So what I teach people is that it doesn't matter how many followers that you have, you can always monetize your brand. Right. So what I do is I've done I've done it on different tiers. So the first tier that I did was I built a community, right? And most people are just like, how is that a tier to make money? People don't connect themselves to a person.
Right.
I'm gonna say that again. People don't connect themselves to a person. They connect themselves to a personality. So in that, what people see in you is something that they can relate to. There's two different things that you're going to do on this TikTok platform. And I've narrowed it down to two different things as to why people have had massive success. Either you're going to educate or you're going to entertain. And if you find a way to do both, oh, you've hit a gold mine.
Yeah.
So with that, what I've come to find is that people will book me to teach them how to have the success. Like the last time we talked, I was at 76,000 followers. Now I'm at 86,000. So in a matter of literally, and I looked at my metrics, I think it was May 3rd. No, I'm sorry, May 13th. I had 76,000 followers. Right. Now I have 86,000. People want to know how you made that jump. Right. How you eclipsed, a million likes. You don't just get a million likes for the sake of getting a million likes. You have to post relatable content. Now, here's the deal. Once you reach a certain level within your content posting, you won't even need to put out original content anymore because people will send you stuff. There are things that there's one video that I have that's sitting at over 300,000 views. That literally there was this trend going on where apparently, individuals just felt like it was just such a popular thing to just disrespect Black women for the sake of their preference for other types of women. And, I just wanted to confront that mindset of you can love who you want to love, but don't you dare do it at the expense of my Black women. So I wrote a poem to confront that using the dynamic that they used. So the individual, he used basketball. So he went to a court and he said, if I make this shot, I got to marry a Black girl. And then he went close to the court. So whereas I thought he was going to make a layup, like, oh, it's an easy, it's easy. And then he punted the ball, just full on punted it. And it's just like when I look at stuff like that, I don't think about that video. I think about all of the residual that's going to come along with that. And all of the young Black girls like my daughter that are going to see stuff like this and think to themselves and say things in the comments like, why do Black men hate us so much? Why don't, Black men love us? Or, why do you have to keep putting us against white women? So in that, what I pretty much said is that, you have to remember you came from a Black woman, love who you want to love, but don't you dare do it at the expense of Black women. Now you got to think about metrics. My following is 86.5% women.
There you go. Okay, there you go.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So now that residual, I think it's like 16.5 that are men, they're looking to me, regardless of whether I like it or not, as a guide on how a Black man should be. Right. Now, should I have to take on that responsibility? No. But when you build that following, you unknowingly take on that responsibility and one thing that I wrote down is that you have a responsibility with your voice. You have a responsibility with your platform to speak truth to power. Now, what you decide to do with that is completely up to you. Another thing that I did to monetize my brand is that I started merch. Right. My followers were asking me, how do you get your t-shirts? Or I really like your t-shirts. I started a slogan called Make It Make Sense. Because there were different things on the platform that just did not make sense to me. And to me, it was just I said it in one or two videos, and then a couple people were like, yo, you're the CEO of Make It Make Sense. So I threw it up in my bio. And I made like a whole series of Make It Make Sense. So I would post videos of, my social, consciousness or, bringing awareness of certain social justice issues. And then people who would post like racist content or stuff like that, and why their stuff wouldn't get taken down, but mine would, make it make sense. So then my followers would be like, yo, I want that on a t-shirt. I want that on a t-shirt. Now that's a revenue stream. Right. Mm-hmm. That's another revenue stream. But then I also have my own t-shirt brand, right, in my books. So I threw my book up in my bio. Right. In my first 2 months being on the TikTok platform, I gained, in 2 months minimum, I gained 80,000 followers. Yeah. Pulling my numbers, I've sold over 600 books. That's just on books alone. Shout out, right? Respect. Right? Yeah. So then they're telling me, yo, we need this merch. We need this merch. We need this merch. So I'm like, yo, I'm leaving money on the table. And a lot of times as performers, we got to understand that we're not just poets, we're brands.
Right.
Brand,
So
yeah.
what is the brand that you would like to be known for? So I
Exactly.
go by poetic prophecy. However, greatness is how I live my life.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna start and I pretty much did it off of my username. I speak 1906. So Highland Speaks was my my merch site. So I put the Make It Make Sense up there. I put the greatness teas up there, and then I built my community and I called them my army of intellectuals. So, I tell them all the time that, I don't want some kind of a cult following to whereas you believe every single thing that I say and,
Right.
you just latch on to every single word and I can do no wrong. I want you guys to have a mind for yourself. And in that, around this time, people were building those types of followings. And you have to understand that when you're building a following, you have to build a community, not a following. So I don't call my followers my followers. I call them my supporters that just so happen to
Yeah.
follow me on a social media platform.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What's the name of that? Not what's the name of it. What's that feature that you utilize on TikTok to incorporate the original video, like the punted basketball?
Uh-huh.
How does that feature work? How does that stand out from the other platforms, from Twitter and Facebook and Instagram?
Okay, okay. And that right there, in it in itself, is another good thing about the platform. So the way the TikTok platform works is, as you gain your following,
Right.
specific features become available to you. So,
Okay.
for example, you can't go live on your page until you hit 1,000 followers.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
anything under 1,000, you can't even go live. What
Got
you're
it.
talking about is there's three different things that you can do. There's this thing called a duet, to
Got it.
whereas your video is here, my video is here. However, all I hear is your video, and then you just see my reactions. And if I want to put like some text up, I can put some text up and or say certain things, and then put the text of what I'm saying. That's what's called a duet. That's one of the most popular.
Got
However,
it.
when you build your following, you can do what's called a stitch or a reaction. Now, the stitch is how I got what you're talking about. You put their video, it's almost like you put like I think it's like between 5 to 7 seconds of their video in the beginning, and then
Got
you
it.
do yours because the video can be up to 60 seconds. But then you find your sweet spot in terms of your metrics. Now, what reaction is my video is here, and then there's a box up here in my background of your video. So what I do is I'll figure out, where in which I want that, and then I'll do things like look up at it, while the video is playing. Now, for me in my home, I'm not looking up at anything, but on
Right.
the actual video, it translates to me telling my followers to send their eyes where I'm sending my eyes to. So it's almost essentially like you're training your timeline. That's what I call it. Training your timeline on how to consume your content. Now, if I'm speaking in that video, then I'll do it in between them saying what they need to say. And you find ways to, utilize that to get your point across. But for my specific videos, sometimes what I'll do is I'll save their video and then I'll cut it in iMovie, and then I'll put my poem either next to it or I'll put my poem right after it. So there's different things that you don't always have to record on the TikTok platform. You can upload things from your camera roll that add to it. So for example, the video that I just did, that Dry, that you mentioned about the Dr. King quote, with that was a montage of videos that I put together. So what I did was I went on Martin Luther King Jr. the third. I went on his Twitter page, and he put up a video of that speech from his father, and I screen recorded it, turned my phone to the side so that you couldn't see that little ring up top,
Right.
screen recorded it up to where I wanted it. Then I stopped it, and then I weaved it together on the TikTok platform by putting my first video, and then I put the Dr. King video, and then I put two more pieces after it. Boom! Now I have content.
Now,
Okay.
at the same token, when you do that to somebody's video, whether it's duo or was it duet or
Duet.
or
Yep.
or the other two, um,
Stitch and reaction.
got you. That also grows the original person's brand as well, correct? Or page.
It's a catch 2020 with that, because unless you directly direct them to that individual's page. So for example, let's say, for example, you put a poem up and it's just you by yourself. You're doing a poem and I want to do a reaction to your poem. For me, the way I structure my page is I always give credit where credit is due, especially if I'm confronting a person on something that they've posted. So, for example, if it's a poem that you've done that I want to highlight. So there was this young lady who goes by Mecca Metamorphosis.
Oh, yeah. Baltimore.
And she was nasty.
Yeah. Baltimore.
I'm talking mean. Like, I got to get the nasty face. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
So what I did was with that poem, I reacted to it, but then I also made sure to tag her in it. Now, you don't have to tag that individual in the original poem, or in your original video, which is another thing that was, essentially an issue on the platform because people weren't giving credit where credit was due to the original author of whom that content was. So my thing is, if I'm going to put you on my page, I want people to go and consume your content. So it's very possible for you to post a poem, let's say it does 50,000 views. My reaction could do 500,000 views. And then none of those views ever come to your original content. So I
thought automatically, like in the bottom right-hand corner, that little spinning CD or something like that, it says where the original video came from, right?
Yes. So what that does is they have to click on that and go to that original video to boost that, which is why I make sure for me, when I'm putting someone's content up there, I'll say, be sure to go to her page or his page and show them love like you show me.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that. And then also there's another option to whereas you can go, let's say, for example, you comment on something that I've posted. I can do a video based on a video reaction based off of your comment. And my original video, let's say my original video does 8,000. Actually, I'll give you a personal example. I seen this one young lady. She did a video and her video did 8,900 views. However, somebody posted a comment on her video. Her reaction video right now is sitting at over 300,000. So now to me, it kind of muddies and drowns out the original message of the original content that you put out, because now your reaction got more views than the original content that you put out. So I try my best not to do that too often.
But people have also reacted and I was going to use duet as as Pat to say duet it, but has used the duet feature for your video, and doesn't that grow your brand as well?
Ideologically, so the way the TikTok algorithm works, right? A duet is considered a share. So so for those of you that are seeking to utilize the TikTok platform, let me just break it down for you. And again, social media consulting, right? I get paid to teach people this stuff.
Yeah.
So the way the TikTok algorithm works is likes mean close to nothing because anybody can just like it and keep on going. Your bread and butter is going to be in your comments first and then in your shares, not just on the platform, but off the platform as well. So that original poem that did 700,000 views, the reason why it did so well is that it went viral on Instagram, it went viral on Twitter, and it went viral on Facebook. But not because of me, but because other people shared it to other platforms, which to me, again, is why I think the TikTok platform is so important. Now, if let's say, for example, I post a video onto Facebook, and I've done this a couple times, the video that I post on Facebook is the raw video. If you post a raw video, it's not going to send them back to the TikTok platform. However, if I post the copy link, then it'll send them back to the TikTok platform to boost those views. So when you post things, you want to post things that tweak at the mental. You want to give a call to action, something that people can latch on to, you know, which is why people say, like, if you can relate, comment if you've had this experience. Or they'll say things like they'll try to hit you with the reverse psychology. Oh, don't worry about it. This is not going to get as many comments as, you know, a video about such and such would get, because inadvertently you're telling them, yeah, you probably should comment, but you don't want to come right out and say that all the time. So what I do is I try to post conversational type of content. That way I can get that engagement on the conversation piece, and I can rack up those views in terms of putting out quality content.
Got it.
Also, when you duet it, right, you're only getting those when you put like down there in the caption.
Right.
They have to click on that to go to the original video. The
Right.
same with, like you said, that bubble at the bottom.
Yeah.
To click on that to go to the original video, which is how things become popular on the platform. That's how you go viral, because they use that sound. So
Like
there's
I'm
been
bored at the
individuals.
house. Bored at the house.
Boom, there you go. That
Right.
went so stupid
Right.
viral. I'm
Right.
not sure if people know Tyga jumped on a remix and put that
Wow.
in a song.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because people use that sound so much and recreate it in their own way, and I just did a reaction video to a young lady who did who utilized my sound. And I also, another thing you can do is competitions, especially for us as poets. You want to be sure that your vocal projection is out there, right? Your diction, people can actually hear what you're saying, right? And you're posting relatable content that people can latch on to, because when they use your sound, when I do my competitions, I tell them, go to my poetry videos, use that sound and recreate it the best way you know possible. Then what that does is it opens you up to different marketplaces. So literally on that platform, I have a worldwide audience. And that's
Right.
another thing I like about that platform, because your reach is not limited like some other social media platforms are.
That's good. That's good. So I know your next goal is 100,000, but ultimately, where do you see yourself going with this TikTok thing? Do you plan to be the poet on TikTok? Like what's your goal with TikTok? Is it to master TikTok and then move on to YouTube? What does that look like to you?
A lot of people have been asking me, do I have a YouTube? Because again, Jardy, I'm glad you mentioned that earlier about, weaving through the platform, because sometimes I'll post things and immediately it'll get taken down, or it'll get flagged because, somebody, felt some type of way about the content. So they'll ask me, do you have a YouTube? Do you have a Instagram? Do you have a Facebook? Those types of things, because they want to follow you on those other platforms. My ultimate goal is definitely to hop over to YouTube and start getting those, sponsorships and those endorsements and things of that nature. However, I want to ensure that I'm putting out, one, a quality message, two, that I'm being authentic to me, and three, that I'm not being limited by the brands that I connect myself to. So you'll see a lot of times, for individuals such as myself that post the content that I post, a lot of companies don't be too keen on connecting themselves to folk like me,
Right.
which is cool because, again, I'm going to be authentic to me, and you're not going to limit my voice of what I can and cannot talk about. But then I also understand getting paid at the end of the day is the goal. So now, if you say, okay, these big name companies aren't booking me, how do I get paid? That's where the diversity comes in at. That's where building that community comes in at. So right now I'm on track to begin to put together a cross-continent tour, to whereas I can build my following so much so that all I got to do is buy a plane ticket and I have a platform to speak on.
Right.
And connect with what I call decision makers. That, for example, I have a young lady in Oregon right now. She sits on the board for the speaker series at her community college. And she's like, yo, this is prime time, for us to start booking speakers and, to put things into motion,
Right.
To bring people onto the platform. These are the types of game changers and individuals that you want to connect yourself to. And here's the bigger piece to that. When you stay committed to your brand, when you're authentic in your message, you don't have to look for those things. They'll come to you. I didn't reach out to her. She
Right.
reached out to me.
Right.
She shot me a DM and said, hey, have you ever been to Oregon before? And I'm like, nah, never been to Oregon. I don't even know nobody that lives in Oregon. She's like, okay, well, I'm on the board at, she gave me the rundown. And I was just like, whoa,
That's
okay. So now what happens is, now I need to see where's the interest at. So in the next coming months, and I probably want to do this once I hit my 6-month mark, I'm actually putting together a course for how to organically grow your following. Because a lot of times what happens is you have these big creators who, right now I'm taking this guy's course who gained 1 million followers in 6 months. Here's the deal. The average person is not going to gain 1 million followers in 6 months. That's just the reality of it. The average person is not going to do that. You have to have a specific niche, right? You have to have a
Right.
specific market that you cater to. and you have to have a certain level of celebrity. Now, this young man, he's in the fitness market. Very well built young man, and he's a handsome young man. And a lot of people don't like to admit that these are metrics that allow you to be a little bit more successful than the average person. So now for an individual such as myself, who's a poet, public speaker, entrepreneur, things of that nature, okay, how am I going to build my brand? How am I going to build my following? What's my base? My spoken word. And if I stay true to that, then when I do post my videos that, all of my videos right now, I have 228 videos on my platform. And I would say probably less than 100 are poems, because you find your niche, you find ways to weave in your personality to your videos. And sometimes it's literally me just doing reactions because of the size of my platform to other people. That's another thing, another way you can monetize your brand. I did a promo on Facebook to whereas I charged people for promotion of their brand or of their platform on my TikTok. And I literally just asked, put a hand up in the comment, the hand up emoji in the comments, if you would like your brand put in front of 60,000 people. Who wouldn't want their brand put in front of 60,000 people?
Right.
So then I did certain levels of promotion. $25 for a 12-hour post, $50 for a 24-hour post, and then $100 for a permanent post, meaning it'll never leave my platform. And, people can, reach out to you. I'll put your contact information in the comments, and, people will, connect to your page and or connect to your platform and bring money to you that way as well. Man, you'll get some of both. And when it comes to that, in terms of the reaction, so you have some people like, oh, that's too much. $25 is too much to invest in your brand. If you ain't got $25 to invest in your brand, then you don't even need to be paying nobody for promotion.
That's the average person, the key word average. You see, so the average person is not going to invest into themselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, another thing too. In terms of building your following and monetizing your brand, you have to be a student of the game.
Right. I was going to say that.
That's all I hear from you. That's all I hear from you is you
metrics, research.
If you don't already, even on the Instagram platform, you have to know your analytics, and they're free. They're free. On the TikTok platform, you switch your account from a regular account to a pro account, and it literally tells you what time of day, what day of the week is best to post, where your following is at. I have a 3% following in the UK and a 3% following in Canada. I haven't been to either place yet.
Right.
Either one, exactly.
You get what I'm saying? But for some reason, people in those regions, they rock with my content. So then it's like, okay, you learn different things to utilize in terms of metrics, algorithms, and those types of things. So now you got to read. This right here is one of the books that has allowed me to be able to understand not just TikTok, but social media as well. And you got to understand how social media works before you can navigate the platform to build what I call a moderate to a massive platform. And right now, I look at my platform as moderate, right? But then you also got to think about the individual who, like Mecca Metamorphosis. I think right now, last time I looked at her page, I think when I posted her video, she had like 8,000 followers. I'm sure she has a little bit more now. But in terms of mindset, to someone like that has 8,000 followers, and someone like me that have 80,000 followers, and to post them on my page, that's a big deal.
Right.
A really big deal. And it shows your audience that you're not above promoting other people. And I always take the mindset of this. If I put you on, or I put you in a position to win, that takes absolutely nothing away from me.
Right.
Now, if I can monetize that, it's up.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I feel like you separate poets that want to do this. I'll put it this way. My mentor, when I first started getting paid for speaking, right? He told me that there's a difference between a poet that does poetry and a poet that is in the business of poetry, because the mindset is going to be way different.
Yeah.
The way in which you approach performances is going to be way different. The content that you post is going to be slightly different, because now you are working the system so that you get engagement, but not only that you get engagement, that you start to get people interested in not just your content, but who you are as a person.
Yeah, that speaks to our motto, uplifting the poetry community and building the poetry industry, because
Absolutely.
we'll have the poets in the community that don't agree with building the industry, because like we said earlier, your poetry is how you feel and is your way of releasing and so on and so forth, right? But those are the folks that either do it for a hobby or to get their feelings out and to inspire others. But then you have the artists, the poets that want to actually do this for a living. But
Yep.
in order for that to happen, there has to be an industry,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And
With
and you don't have, just because you're a poet, and for those of you that are going to be listening to this, I want you to understand this. You don't have to be a professional poet.
and that's fine.
We are providing people such as myself, Christoph Girardi, we are providing a platform and an avenue for you to understand that being a professional poet and living off of your poetry is possible.
Exactly.
And there are individuals who, oh man, I've had people tell me, I think it's messed up that, you get paid to do your poetry. You should do it
Right.
just for the sake of doing it. I got a family, bro.
Right.
If I'm taking my time to travel to
Yeah.
these places, I'm
Yeah.
taking my time to be on these people's platform and to stand in front of, I think the biggest crowd I've stood in front of was probably 40,000 people.
Yeah.
To speak,
Yeah.
speak my
Hey, man.
piece
Yeah.
and to put the greatness into the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I deserve to be paid for that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes
sure.
we undermine and undervalue ourselves so much so that we forget that there are people out there willing
Right.
to pay you top dollar
Exactly.
for what you've worked so hard. I've been performing for over 15 plus years. So when someone tells me that they can't pay me, you need to explain to me why you can't pay me.
Yeah.
And there's no emotion involved in that. This is business.
Yeah.
I've competed. I have national competitions that I've won to prove that, hey, listen, I'm worth listening to.
Right.
And
Understand
sometimes
your
people,
value.
right, understand that you have value. Your poetry has value, but before anybody else can value it, you have to value it.
There you go.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
That's good, man. That's a wealth of information, and
Good episode, man.
you just have to know your DNA. You have to know why you're doing it.
Absolutely.
If you're doing it for the love, do it for the love, but don't belittle and disrespect the person that wants to do it for a living.
Right.
There's a lane for it all, right? And so we're building the lane for the poet that wants to create a career out of it,
Absolutely.
right? And because it's not just for the poet, it's for the person that has the money to pay the poet. They want to know, is there an industry,
Yep.
right? They want
And
to know if this is valuable.
And here's the
Yeah.
deal too. When you build this industry, right, now you give them examples of people to look to for them to understand that this is possible.
Exactly.
So whenever I go to different platforms or seek to disrupt certain markets or whatever the case may be, and they ask me, well, and here's the deal too. They will confront you. Do understand these
Sure.
big companies? They will. When I spoke for what was it? Urban League. When I spoke for the Urban League, they asked me, how many other professional poets are there out there? And the fact that I could name off Prentice Powell, Roscoe Burns, who was the other person that I put out there? Prentice Powell, Roscoe Burns, Rudy Francisco.
Oh, yes,
Anita D. I met her out here in Hawaii, and I did not even know that she was ranked number 2 in the world. But when she got on that stage and she started speaking before she even said that, I was like, yeah, I'm sure she's on different platforms. And then I seen her on Button doing numbers.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many other poems, like one of my mentors, Joshua Bennett, Carvin's Lassant.
Okay.
He's doing Broadway.
Strivers Row.
You know what I mean? Right, Strivers Row. So when I tell people,
what's up, man? What's up, man?
Yeah. So when it comes to those different types of people, these are the individuals that people want to see and know that, hey, listen, this is actually a thing. There are people out there, and I want you guys to understand this too.
Yep.
There are people out there that don't understand that this is an industry.
Right.
That there's big money in booking these performers for their platforms. And you got to understand this too. And one of my mentors, Eric Thomas, he said this when I met him. He said, if I do something for $5, $500, $5,000, or $50,000, it does not matter what I do it for. I'm going to do it because I want to do it. Mm-hmm. Same as with doing it for free. There's been multiple gigs where I've done for free because I believed in the platform or I believed in the individual that was putting on the program. But understand this, there are people that will try to pimp you for your passion.
Yeah, of course.
Understand that. Yeah. So when you set your price, when I say my price is my price, when I do it for free or I take less than what I would normally offer, it's because I want to. Not because you're backing me in a corner to pretty much say that, oh, well, this is all we got to give you. Don't be afraid to say no. There's been companies where I've been like, nah, I'm not doing that. I can't. You're not going to pay me. You're not going to let me sell none of my books. You're not going to let me sell none of my T-shirts. I have to drive to you. I have to find my own lodging. You pimping me.
Right.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, because you got to understand, the person that's connecting themselves to you, they may not always be the game changer. So I want to tell you guys about this specific story, and it has everything to do with TikTok. They saw that video that I posted that went viral on TikTok. Hey, we want to book you before you leave Virginia. I'm not gonna say the name of the university, just for sake of an NDA that I signed. But they said, 500 was too much. I said, okay, can I sell my books? They're like, nah, we don't think that's a good look because, none of the other, speakers are, selling their books. I said, well, I looked at the other speakers. They haven't been doing what I'm doing. Right. Cool. Can I sell my T-shirts? They're like, nah, we don't really. I said, well, then no, I'm not coming.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
That individual wasn't the ultimate decision maker. It was the department chair. The department chair said, hold on, big dog. No. That person, they're highly mistaken. We're not only going to give you that, but we're going to triple what it is that you said you asked for because number one, we apologize because that person was very unprofessional.
Right.
And two, they were just trying to, and don't get me wrong, I understand as an organizer, you don't want to spend, massive amounts of money, but this all goes back into valuing yourself and understanding that when you're getting pimped for your passion, and I've been doing this for so long, I know when a company is flexing for the sake of getting you. And they'll be apologetic. You know what? I'm really sorry. We can't really pay you as much as, we would like to pay you. We can pay you this. Okay, cool. Or we can't pay you at all. So on the front end, I'm like, I got a family. I got mouths to feed, So, all right, can I do this? Yes, absolutely. Do you need a table? Do you need chairs? Can you send us some promo information so we can put it up on campus? They will go out of their way to ensure that you're getting something when they truly see the value in you.
Yep.
However, when they're just trying to pimp you for your passion, they're not going to try to help with none of that. They're just going to be like, we can't pay you and, you just can't do nothing else. And it's just like, understand it. It's okay to say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes
when you get to that point where you're okay with saying no, that's when you know your value and your worth.
Absolutely.
That's when you're okay with saying no to 1,000.
Oh, I've said no to 5,000.
No, that's power. You can say no. That's the real power.
Yes, I've said, and I think this is very important to say too. I've said no to 5,000, and I've said no to 10,000, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because morals, value, and your word mean everything.
Right.
And when you have individuals trying to put you onto a platform that does not align with your views or does not align with your passion, and this is my personal opinion, you must choose your morality and your self-worth far more than just that money. Would it have been nice to get that 5,000? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing you said that resonates, you said when you walk in your truth, you gotta accept everything that comes with that.
Absolutely.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. So that $10,000 gig, they wanted me to change a certain aspect of my poem. No, absolutely not. Okay. You're not about to tweak my piece. No. Okay. Now, have I shifted certain words in certain atmospheres to suit a specific crowd? Oh, yeah. I've done that from time to time. It's called being versatile. Right. But when the platform itself is saying, hey, listen, We looked at the piece because there's some places that are going to want to see, your poem, before you speak it, if they haven't heard it verbally, which is cool. You know what I mean? Ensure that you protect your piece beforehand in terms of your intellectual property so that nobody can steal, your work. But then also understand that, hey, listen, this one stanza right here, nah, I don't think my audience really going to like that. So can you change? No. No. And there were people that told me that I was stupid for not changing it for $10,000, but money is not going to make or break me, because I truly do believe, and my grandmother taught me this, that your gift will make a room for you. Your gift will make more than enough room for you with where it is that you're going to go.
That's good. That's good. Look, man, because we can go all night. This is what we do. This is what we love to talk about, man. And we don't want to give them everything, because on June 26th, we're going into a deep dive on Zoom. And those of you listening, watching, you all can register on Eventbrite. Just go to our Eventbrite page, thepoetlife.eventbrite.com, and register. This gentleman, Anthony Highland, as you can see, you can hear his passion, right? And I'm sure I don't know if you've seen his TikTok page, his videos, but check this gentleman out. But also jump into the Zoom with us. He's gonna share his back office of TikTok, and answer whatever questions that you might have, and just network with them. Meet him, not just in the comments on TikTok or wherever else. Let's talk to him. You'll have your video on, we'll have our video on. We'll be able to network. It's called Networking with the Poet Life. Again, that's June 26th. Look, Anthony, man, thank you so much on the Shield. We got 3 alphas here. And for those of you who don't know, that's Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. When did you cross, Anthony?
Spring 2012, 8 iota.
Got you. Where's Voorhees? Where is that?
Denmark, South Carolina.
Got you. Okay. And J. Roddy, where'd you cross? Oh, sorry, you was on mute.
Oh man, fall 11 Eastern Shore.
Got you. Yeah, and I'm Norfolk State. Epsilon Pi follow 3. This was a wealth of information. Like I said, it was so just great to hear. To understand the metrics, the background, why you chose TikTok, what you're doing with TikTok, and standing out and being extraordinary, right? Not just doing the norm, and also doing your homework. That's the
Absolutely.
biggest thing. That's what stands out from others,
Yep.
because most people, the average person, is just going to be on there putting up videos and dancing and laughing, but not being strategic about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's because I really believe that what's been the crutch for the poetry community or the poetry industry is because we feel not a lot of poets are doing it big or doing it well. We believe that we can't either. But that's actually the superpower,
Right.
because you can be the only one in the room or the only one in the city
Yep.
performing spoken word, and you be
Yep.
that person to go to.
And here's the deal: in building that following, right? I'm gonna be honest. With Mecca Metamorphosis, I had no idea who she was.
Yeah,
But when you become synonymous with your brand, right?
right.
People tag you in it. So
There you
now I
go.
have 86,000 people that recognize, hey, when I think of poetry and spoken word and I think of
Right.
TikTok, I think of I Speak 1906. Why
Exactly.
is that? Because I've built that. So now these smaller pages that, poets who on other platforms may be a little bit bigger, on this platform, they may not get the views or have the following that they would like. Oh, it takes
In
nothing
your
from
world
me
now.
to put them onto my page or onto my platform to be like, yo, Yeah, come on over. I got you. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Now,
Yep.
if we can sit down at the table, we can iron out some things in terms of, payment for that, then, hey, let's do that. But there are times where I myself feel a responsibility to my community that if somebody tag me in something and it's stupid, nasty, like Mecha Metamorphosis, I'll never forget
That
that
joint was
poem.
sick.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about, like, I had the ugly face on the whole poem. Like,
For those of you who don't know, that means it was great.
oh, man.
Not
I'm
too
talking
many
about,
people
Yeah.
know
That
our.
means it's like that.
Yeah, it's amazing, is
it's
what that
it's
means.
it's when you twist your face up at
Right.
something that's just so mean,
Mm.
just you know what I'm saying? It's like getting that first taste of that big macaroni and cheese. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, at the cookout.
Yeah. No. Mecca she's out of this world, man.
Oh
I just
yeah,
found the
She's
absolutely.
website. Yeah, I
acting
just
and
found the website.
everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Gentlemen.
What you
Here's
got?
another thing too. It's one last thing that I want to give you guys, one nugget
What you
that I
got,
feel
man?
Okay.
like we struggle with.
Close us out with it.
Don't be afraid to reach out to people.
Listen.
Okay. Okay.
I want to make sure that I hammer that. When I
Yeah.
became big on TikTok, and I'm just now coming into accepting the fact that I'm quote unquote TikTok famous,
Right.
because now there are smaller pages that are literally teaching my poetry in their classes. There are
Right.
teachers. I know one teacher in Detroit. He teaches my videos. He uses my videos as part of his poetry
Yeah.
curriculum.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Understand, it's okay to reach out to people. These bigger
Yeah.
pages, it's okay to reach out to them and say, hey, if you didn't mind, could you duet my video? Or could you comment on my video? Just for the sake of showing other people. There are people that follow me that have over 1 million views. And actually, let me give you guys an example. There's a gentleman, I think his name is like D_model. He's a model and a dancer. He has over 1.2 million followers. He reached out to me this morning to be a part of a project.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? These are the types of pages, these are the types of people that you got to tuck that pride to the side and say, you know what? I know where it is that I want to go. And I don't mind reaching out to people that have bigger platforms and or
Right.
bigger pages than me to say, hey, would you mind putting me on your platform? And then we talked about that self-investment piece. Don't be afraid to throw some bread their way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right.
how you grow. That's how you get your following. I have pages with over 300,000 followers, 500,000 followers, over 200,000 followers, over 1 million followers that have duetted my videos and put me on their platform. And I didn't even ask them to do it.
Right.
But when you're authentic in your platform, there are people who will relate your content to another creator that they like that have these massive amounts of followers and views. Boom. I ended up on 2 million follower pages within a month. Gained 20,000 followers in a week.
Look, man, we're not gonna give y'all everything. We're not gonna give y'all
You
everything.
gotta come back for the
Woo.
workshop, man.
Oh
Come back for the
man.
workshop.
Connect with us in the comments, but we drop our episodes on Mondays. This episode, as you're watching it will drop on June 21st, which is a Monday. And then that same week, we do this for every episode. The same week, the guest then becomes a Poet Life professor. In that you see the logo in the bottom left corner, Poet Life University. We teach this because, again, we're uplifting the poetry community,
Right.
but we're also building the poetry industry.
Facts.
And we need you. We need the poet that feels like there's no industry, there's no lane for this.
Yep.
We're showing you that there is a lane. We're building the lane. We're laying the platform, the cement, everything, right? And like we said, we're bringing people on that have the expertise, the experience, the accolades and the achievements that to where they've done the things that folks believe that
Yeah.
can't be done. And we're picking their brain, having them give us the ABC 1, 2, 3. How did you do that? If that person doesn't want to share and be generous with the information, they can't come onto this platform because there's nothing to talk about. We don't want to just praise you up and say good job. No,
Facts.
Yeah.
We
that's
want to
not what
build
this is for.
build others in the process.
Right.
Exactly. Because in order for it to be an industry, we need more than 5 people,
Big facts.
right? Like, you know, so we need poets everywhere doing major things, and that's how you build the industry. So I'm not going to belabor, man. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Anthony. We really appreciate you. We're definitely
For
going to
sure,
connect
man.
and do some more work. You are definitely a Poet Life professor now. So we have a private Facebook group. Listen, you all need to connect with us. Go to thepoetlife.com, reach out to us, subscribe to our YouTube page, Poet Life TV. We're everywhere. We're doing a whole lot of things. You know, if there's some kids that want to start writing, we have Poet Life Academy between the ages of just say K through 12, right? 5 through 17, I believe. And we're teaching them how to use poetry, how to express themselves, but also to say, if they said, when I grow up, I want to be a poet, we're building the opportunity for that to happen,
Absolutely.
right? You know, there won't be a lie to say, yeah, you can do that. And we know that's not to be true. It will be true.
Right.
It will be true. They will be able to be a professional poet, you know, if we have anything to do with it. So
Right.
thank you all
Yeah.
so much. J. Rod, do you have anything?
Now I want to thank you again, good brother, for being on the show, sharing the wealth of knowledge you have, man. You helped me out a lot with just what I've been thinking about as far as I want to take my brand to the next level. I really appreciate the jewels you shared, bro, for real. And we can chat some more offline, man.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Anthony, you got anything to close us out, man?
Well, I just want to thank you, you brothers, not only just for the opportunity for myself, but for the opportunity that you guys are open up for other poets. Because doing stuff like this, sometimes they don't understand the value of what this
Yeah.
actually does and the place that this actually puts them into. And I've done a lot of different platforms across my years of performing and being a professional, and I've never seen anything quite like this ever.
Yeah,
So the fact that you guys are spearheading this, I think much respect is due. And I think that what you guys are doing, you're on a very noble mission. I just want to encourage you guys, stay the course,
sure.
Thank
stay the
you. Yes,
course. Because the path that you guys are creating and the opportunities that you guys are creating, not just for yourselves but for poets worldwide, I think is an amazing thing. And for those of you that are listening, I want you to continue to utilize your platform in a way that transcends lives and liberates minds. And
yeah.
connect with me. I'm here.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's big.
Awesome.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't get no time now. You in the way, I'm doing fine now. Out of my business. Find a way, find a way.